check.
Yeah. If I please, could you? Okay.
Confirm. Okay, yeah.
We are live, right?
I'll confirm that now and get back to you just.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, you're live.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll start. Okay.
It's about.
Could you please turn off your mute yourself so that we won't interrupt the. Okay, right. Thank you. Okay, hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on securing postgraduate funding in UK and in Canada. And I want to say thank you for joining us to our guests on Zoom and also on Facebook. We appreciate your time. And my name is Ejiro Matilda Ikoko. I'm a Commonwealth scholar studying transport planning at the University of Leeds. And I have my co-organizer with me here today, Ife Oluwa, also a Commonwealth scholar at the University of Leeds, and we're helping us during the question and answer section. So this is how the webinar will go. Our speakers will speak for 15 minutes and 20 minutes. That's the last speaker. Then all your questions, you can actually type them in the chat box or the comment box. And after all those speakers have spoken, then we will take the questions. And you can be kind to put your name and location, but it's not necessary, but you can just ask the questions straight away. Okay, I want to say thank you to our speakers for joining us today. We have Erica Chambly. She's a professor and dean at the Faculty of Law, University of Western Ontario, Canada. She's joining us live today from Canada. And she's also a member of the Ontario Bar. And her research area is on tort liability of police and public authorities. Yeah, we also have Olatunji Atuni Akerenle. He's also a PhD candidate at the Memorial University of Newfoundland, and is also a recipient of about 2 or 3 scholarships, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and is joining us live today from Canada, I think Newfoundland. Yeah, and last but not least, we have Billy Chamberlain. Yeah, he's also he's a pharmacist by profession and also a 2018-2019 Commonwealth scholar at the University of Bradford, and he studied an MSc in pharmaceutical technology and medicine control. So he'll also be speaking, and is also one of our in-house printers. So we're going to start with Billy today. For the next 15 minutes, Billy will be speaking on steps, how to secure Commonwealth scholarship and Chevron scholarship. Billy won the Chevron and the Commonwealth, but of course he chose the Commonwealth because he has to pick one. So he's giving us the experience and also sharing tips. So Billy, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matilda. I hope you are able to hear me.
Yeah, we can hear
you. Okay. Thank you for this opportunity to make a presentation. I can see we have a lot of people, and it's very much encouraging that a number of people want to secure a scholarship and go and study. Now, since I've been asked to give some tips on both Commonwealth scholarship and Chevening scholarship, I feel the 15 minutes is not enough for me to go into the nitty-gritties. So I'll try and give general tips which will apply to both the Commonwealth and the Chevening scholarship. And if people still want to ask more questions or they still need another platform, then we can engage each other on the WhatsApp groups that we have. So in order for you to successfully acquire a scholarship in the UK, either the Commonwealth scholarship or the Chevening scholarship, the first thing that you need to do is to check if you are eligible for this scholarship. One of the eligibilities that you be looking for, which might make you not to be eligible for the scholarship, is if you belong to the Commonwealth country, if you're applying for Commonwealth. So Commonwealth scholarship is only applicable for applicants who are coming from Commonwealth countries. But the goodness part of it is that the Chevening scholarship is offered in over 160 countries. So for those who are not coming from Commonwealth countries, your best shot to securing a scholarship in the UK would be the Chevening scholarship. The other thing that you need to look out for while you are looking at the eligibility, again, you need to look at what kind of Commonwealth scholarship you are applying for. There are various types of Commonwealth scholarship. You may be looking for a scholarship to fund your PhD or to fund your master's. So the goodness part with Commonwealth scholarship is that they have both PhD scholarship and master's scholarship. And there are a number of master's scholarships that they do provide. You can apply through the university directory, and that is through the Commonwealth shared scholarship, or you can apply for the general Commonwealth scholarship for lower and middle income countries. And there are slight differences in terms of what they look for, but the final say is usually given by the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. So if you are already done your master's and you're looking for a PhD, you can consider Commonwealth scholarship. But if you are looking for a master's and you are eligible for both Commonwealth and Chevening, you can go for both and apply for both, because Chevening is only applicable to applicants or scholars who want to study a master's scholarship. The other thing to look for in terms of eligibility is the work experience. In terms of work experience, there is a cap which is required for you to show that you have worked for some time, especially on the Chevening scholarship. The Chevening scholarship will require you to have at least a minimum of 2 years work experience, or if you don't have the 2 years experience, but if you have at least 2,800 hours of work experience, and then that will make you be eligible. The other thing, again, that you need to consider when it comes to the Commonwealth scholarship is if you are eligible to be nominated by the body that you are applying for. So for you to secure a scholarship through the Commonwealth scholarship, you need to apply. I'm kindly asking if you can mute your mic. I think we have some people who have joined us and their mic was on. Yeah, so for you to secure a Commonwealth scholarship, you don't have to apply direct to the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. You apply through what they call a nominating body. So depending on the type of the scholarship, the Commonwealth scholarship, you can apply through the Ministry of Higher Education in the country where you belong to, and mostly that is the largest group of scholars where they come from, or you can apply through the university, a UK university, that is if you are applying for the Commonwealth shared scholarship, or you can apply through the non-governmental organization nominating bodies. So some countries, they usually have non-governmental organization bodies who nominate applicants who suit what they are looking for. So before you apply for Commonwealth scholarship and you want to apply through a non-governmental organization body, you need to go to their website, read through what criteria are they looking for someone to be nominated for a Commonwealth scholarship, and ensure that you qualify before you apply. Otherwise, you'll just be wasting your application, which you can apply for another scholarship which are eligible. So the first tip in ensuring that you secure a scholarship is to go through the requirements of the scholarship and ensure that you are eligible in all the aspects that they are looking for in their eligibility. And the goodness part of the scholarships is that they usually state the eligibility criteria which they are looking for. And the other thing is to also consider the objective of the scholarship. Do you fit in the objective of the scholarship? So for example, you find that Chevening scholarship, their objective is to build leaders and networkers. So they will be looking for people who have strong leadership influence, who are good networkers. While for Commonwealth, you will find that they will emphasize much on academic research. So if your strong points or your strong background is in academic research and the like, you would stand a better chance in Commonwealth scholarship, unlike in Chevening scholarship. And also, if your background is more strong in terms of the leadership experience and networking in your work experience, then you may be more suitable for the Chevening scholarship. So once you have assessed that you are eligible for the scholarship that you are applying for, the next step is now to consider how are you going to apply to the scholarship. So in considering how you're going to apply for the scholarship, I think for the Commonwealth scholarship, I've hinted a bit. You have to apply through nominating bodies. So depending on the nominating body, you apply to them. And after you've successfully being nominated by those nominating bodies, some they will require that you attend an interview. So you have to be prepared to attend the interview. I will give also a bit of tips on interview. Others, they will solely base the application on what you write in the application. So once you secure a nomination, you'll be also required to write some essays and also fill in the application form, which is online. So the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission has an online application, which they call an electronic application system for you to fill in. So the same applies to Chevening scholarship. They have an official website, and you apply for Chevening scholarship through the website. So it's a good practice for those who want to secure a scholarship to go through the website, read through the information. There's a lot of information that is provided before you start your application. Now, in making your application, you have to ensure that you are truthful and you follow all the instructions that are given in each section. And you try to align your information that you're applying in each section to the objective of the scholarship. Like I have said, for Chevening, they are looking for leaders or influencers who have good networking. So even as you are writing all the section of the application, for example, if you are doing your work experience, you need to align the points that you are putting in your work experience to show that there is some leadership involved. So maybe you are a manager at work, you can use words like you lead a team of 12 people, you supervise a number of these people. So by putting words like leading, supervising, that shows that there is some leadership in you. So the same applies to the Commonwealth scholarship. When you are writing your application, like in the work experience, maybe you have done some research and you have won some prizes, some awards. So those will give you an edge. You have to put everything. Don't think that is very small, or you think that this will not give you an upper hand. So very small prize, maybe you were the best student in one course, or maybe you are the overall student. So all those things, they have to be reflected in your application because they will give you an upper hand, especially if you don't have any research, you don't have the strength in your research, but you have won some prizes at the university. So those will give you an upper hand when you're making your Commonwealth scholarship application. The other part is also to ensure that you highlight the key points in the essay questions that are provided. So you have different essays to answer. For example, in the Commonwealth scholarship, you'll be required to write about a developmental essay. How have you contributed to development? You also be required to write essay on your career plan. How will be your career plan when you come back from your scholarship? So there are two principles that we usually emphasize when we are giving tips on how to write essays. So the first one is called the STAR approach. So a STAR approach, the S stands for a situation. So you need to give a brief situation about what you did. For example, if you are giving a leadership example, you give a situation. What was that situation that made you lead or be a leader? And the T will stand. The T stands for the task which was at hand. So when you are giving essays, you don't have to show that you were a leader and you are the person who benefited. So it has to be to the benefit of maybe the community or your institution and the like. So when you're making your application, don't make the application be to your benefit, but it has to show that you actually care for the community or you care for the environment that you work in, and what you did was for the benefit of your institution or your community. So the T stands for the task. So you explain what exactly task that you did in your leadership example. And the A will give now the actual actions that you did. And the R will, in the other part, you explain the results of your action. So maybe you led a team to maybe build a school or raise some funds for the community. And the result of that was that maybe 20 people in that village or in that community benefited from your leadership experience. So the results are what the people who are reading the essays, they want to see, that you are actually having an impact in your community. And if they invest the money in you by awarding you a scholarship, then their money will be put into good use. So when you're writing such essays, always use the STAR approach. And for the career plan, when you are asked to write a career plan, what you are going to do after you have gotten your master's in the UK. So the principle that you use for your career plan is called a SMART approach. So SMART, the S will stand for being specific. So you are going to be specific in what you explain, that by the time you come, you are going to do ABCD to help your community or to help your country grow. Then the M will be that your career plan has to be measurable. So you need to put a measure to your career plan. And the A will stand for your goal that you are putting in your career plan. It has to be attainable. The R will stand for being realistic. So you don't have to be that immediately you come back with your master's in sustainable development from the UK, then you're going to come and end hunger in your country. So that is not being realistic. So you have to be realistic. You have to say, maybe you are going to contribute within the 3 years, you are going to do ABCD, and this will at least reduce maybe 10% of the poverty in your country or something like that. So you have to be realistic even as you set your goal, and you have to put a time frame. So the T in the SMART stands for the time frame. So you have to be specific that maybe within the first 2 years when you come back, that will be your short-term plan. You're going to do this. And then your mid-term plan can be maybe 3 to 5 years or 3 to 6 years. Again, you outline what you're going to do. And then in your long-term career plan, you also outline what you are going to do. Actually, the Commonwealth scholarship application form is even made simpler because they've asked 3 questions in your career plan. In 3 questions, you have to write what you want to do in your short-term plan, what you're going to do in your mid-term plan, and in your long-term plan. So always remember to write your essays using the STAR principle and the SMART approach for your career plan. And do not just give one example when you are writing your essays. At least give 2 or 3 examples in your essays. This will show that you have a vast experience in that particular question that has been asked. So it's good that you put at least 2 or more examples, but be mindful of the word limit. Do not go above the word limit that is provided. There are also tips that you can use to cut your essays if you go above the word limit. So if you want to know about those tips, my friends and I, we have written some articles on how to cut the essays. So you can Google the scholars map. Just go to Google and search for scholars map, and you'll be able to see the tips that we've written. There are quite a number of tips that you can use to just paraphrase your sentences and also to cut the words. Okay, so the next part is to also ensure that you have all the documents on time. And by documents, the Chevening Scholarship and the Commonwealth Scholarship require similar documents. So you require references at different times. So you have to ensure that your references, you communicate with your referee and you develop a good network with your referee so that they don't disappoint you when you need those references. You also need the academic transcript, which has to be uploaded after the application or during the application process. So you also have to ensure that you secure your academic transcripts in good time, especially for those who are just graduating and they are still waiting for their transcript. So have your transcript in good time.
Okay.
Over time?
Yeah, just a minute to wrap up, please. Yeah,
all right, thank you. Yes, so the other thing is also to consider the courses that you are choosing. Both scholarship require that you state at least 3 courses in your application. So ensure that you search the universities, you search the courses, and you choose at least similar courses. I usually advise people to choose courses that are in line with what they did in their bachelor's and not to move very far away from their bachelor's, what they did under bachelor's. So in conclusion, the tips that I'm going to give in my conclusion, sorry because of time, the Chevening scholarship has frequently asked questions, which you can go to the website before the application actually open next month. You can go through the frequent asked questions. They will be able to clarify most of the issues that you may have in your application process, what type of document you require and everything. In a similar fashion, also the Commonwealth Scholarship has also feedback to unsuccessful applicants. So you can go through those feedback to unsuccessful applicants. Even if they are general, at least you'll be able to learn what you are supposed to avoid during your application as you make a successful application. And also, I would encourage you to join social media platform, Facebook, WhatsApp, and interact with previous scholars and current scholars, and also have your essays written in good time, give to someone to review them, and criticize your essays before you submit. Thank you, Matilda.
Okay. Thank you, Billy. That was quite insightful. Thank you so much. And that is what one of the things I learned was using the STAR approach and the SMART approach. And I'm sure most of us we just write essays like we just write without a direction. So thank you for that clarity. And so our next speaker is Antonia Akerile. So he'll be talking about how do I find supervisors, how does the PhD admission work, and how can I get funding in Canada? So please, let's be aware of the time, and whatever questions you have, just type it on the chat when we are done. If will help us read out the questions. So Akerile, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Matilda. Thank you. Thank you for having me today. My name is Olatunji Anthony Akerile. I'm a nutritional biochemist. I'm currently rounding up my PhD at Memorial University of Newfoundland. And I did my master's in the UK at University of Nottingham, and that was funded by Developing Solutions. So today I've been asked to speak about how to secure PhD admissions, finding supervisors, as well as funding opportunities in Canada. But before I proceed, most of what I'll be saying today practically my experiences or a lot of my opinions. And I'm not here to promise any admission or to promise any scholarship offer. At the same time, I would like to say that we all know that COVID-19 has affected a lot of opportunities for international students. So let's keep this point in mind as I move on. So to begin with, I'll just say some fun facts about Canada. Some of you might be aware of this, that Canada is the most educated country in the world. So approximately 57% of Canadian youth have at least post-secondary school education, which is fantastic. Okay, and another thing which you may all know is that Canada is a country in North America with a population of approximately 38 million people, and we have 10 provinces and 3 territories. So the last fun fact, which I am sure will interest most of you today, is that Canada currently has 96 universities offering PhD programs. So let me make a quick rundown on how these universities are distributed within the provinces in Canada. So Alberta currently has 8 universities offering PhD program. British Columbia 11, Manitoba 6, Quebec, which is the largest province in Canada, has 19 universities doing PhD programs. And note that the official language in Quebec is French, and that could be a strength to your application if you are well grounded in French. Saskatchewan, 6 universities. Ontario, which is the most populous province in Canada, has 31 universities. Then I'll move to the Atlantic Canada. New Brunswick, 4 universities. Please note, New Brunswick, the official language is both French and English. Then Nova Scotia, 9. My province, Newfoundland and Labrador, 1 university. Prince Edward Island, 1 university. The 3 Canadian territories also have universities and colleges, but they don't offer PhD admissions. So let's get down to business of today. So what are the requirements for securing a PhD admission in Canada? In most cases, you require a master's certificate or a master's degree from a very good or reputable university and with a very good grade. And having said that, I should let you know that you can as well move directly from your undergraduate to a doctorate program, especially if you graduated with a first class. So this is usually an opportunity for exceptional students. However, this is very, very rare. Why is it rare? Your research experience as well as your confidence to carry out a project is highly required for a PhD program. Because in a PhD program, you are expected to drive the project yourself, while your supervisor is just there to guide you at every point in your project. So this limitation of experiences and confidence is usually what prevents a lot of undergraduates getting PhD admissions directly. But having said that, some universities will allow the exceptional undergraduate students to go into their doctorate program for an extended period of time so that they can acquire the master level kind of training as they move on. And on the other hand, some universities would offer you what I call doctoral stream masters. So what this means is that you'll be admitted for a master's program, and in your second year, you'll be assessed depending on what criteria for that assessment is. So if you do well or if you pass the assessment, you'll be rolled over into a PhD program from your master's program. So this will lead me to the segment I know most of you have been waiting for. How do I apply for a PhD in Canada? So the application for PhD in Canada is not conventional. What do I mean? It's not like you just see a university online and you love the name of the school and you just apply and you get in as a PhD student. No, it doesn't work that way. I know some universities in UK, you can apply and you get admission, then you sort out your funding yourself, but it's not the same way in Canada. So we have 2 basic routes through which you can go in for a PhD program in Canada. So the first route is you finding an advertised project and apply for it. So many projects have been funded already. Many projects have scholarship. so, and stipends. So they're just looking for the ideal candidate to bring on board to execute the project. So in this case, you have to look online and see and apply before you can get in. And the second route is you looking for an opportunity by yourself. So you find a doctoral program with your own research idea, or you look for someone who may be looking for students. So the first step in the second route is for you to identify a suitable supervisor or a research group. Contact them and discuss, and then you may have to apply for your funding separately, or you may bring your own funding from your country or from other funding bodies, and the supervisor may as well fund your research if there's funding available. So, but for whichever route you are looking into applying for, admission into PhD programs is very, very competitive. So this means all your academic credentials will be examined closely. And I often tell people, if you want to continue in the academic environment, try your best to get good grades. How do I mean? Grade may not be the one to get you the PhD position, but at least it gives you an opportunity to compete. For example, if you graduate with a first class, that already gives you a leverage to compete for PhD admission. So depending on which university or which professor you are applying to, you may be required to submit your transcript, bachelor's and your master's transcript. And if you are suggesting your own topic, you may need to submit a research proposal for it. But if you're applying for an advertised opportunity, you may be asked to write a personal statement explaining your academic interest and ambitions. You may also be required to submit your past thesis, your undergraduate thesis, as well as your master's thesis. And I do tell people, make sure you do and write your thesis very well. You never can tell when there will be need for it. And at the same time, you may be required to submit at least 2 recommendation letters or 2 academic references. This is very critical. I cannot emphasize this enough. Make sure that you check with people and they are happy to give you a reference letter. And make sure you give them plenty of notice. And the person should know you enough to at least write a page about you. You know, I've heard story of people just writing, this student is a very good student, she's very hardworking, 2 sentences. That is not enough recommendation to get you a good PhD position. So make sure you know the person know you enough to at least write a page of good stuffs about you. And depending on the university as well, you may be required to take an English test, or proof of English language proficiency may suffice. So whichever way it is, this is not cast in stone. Be sure you check the specific requirement with the graduate school that you are applying to, or with the university, or with the supervisor that you are applying to work with. So I do say this a lot of time, getting PhD offer is a job itself. It requires an intentional approach. So you need to be actively searching, or at least connect with people that have information. And the truth is that there are far many students and the opportunities are very few. So what this means is that it's not really going to be very easy. So you need to put on your competition cap. And in my experience in mentoring people, I've developed like a formula or a guide on how to help you either by applying or doing an interview for PhD. These 4 points would go a long way to help you. And the first thing is that for you to do any PhD program, make sure that you have the core knowledge of that field. What do I mean? The core knowledge means you must know what at least anybody in that field should know. So which means if they ask about some fundamentals of that field, you must be well grounded in it for you to proceed to a PhD program. And the second thing is that do have a topic knowledge about that area. So what do I mean? What are the new and the current way of thinking in that line of research? You must be aware of that. You must be current with respect to that area. How can you be? By reading. So you have to read a lot because PhD itself requires a lot of reading. And the third point I'm going to mention is that you must have a practical thought. So after you examining the new and the current way of thinking in that field, do you have a realistic or a researchable idea in your mind? Or have you identified a knowledge gap that someone can say, let's do this research together? So that will go a long way to help you. And you can do this by reviewing the literature to identify knowledge gaps. And the last one is to at least always give your potential supervisor a breath of fresh air. Create an atmosphere that is acceptable. I mean, when you are contacting them, go simple. With no offense, some people speak too much grammar, and the person you are applying to will have to place a Webster dictionary beside him or her to understand your language. No, go simple. When I moved to UK in 2013, I got to understand that the best way of communication is a simple way of passing your message. So if you forget anything that I've said today, don't forget these 4 points. Next time you are cooking up your next PhD application, don't forget to put these 4 ingredients in your application. I recently mentored a young man, and this person has been sending emails, no response. And we follow these simple steps. We put all these things together, and everybody he contacted responded. Although there was no funding available as at the time of sending that email, but you can tell in one of the emails that the professor was ready to take him up as a student. Had it been there was funding available for him. So once you are accepted into a PhD program in Canada, there will be a baseline funding, depending on whatever agreement you reach with the supervisor. And this is dependent on the school, on the department, and on your program. And this may be a combination of internal and external awards. You may have a research assistant part of it. You may have a graduate assistantship part of it. And I will deal more with this during the question and answer session. So your funding may not give room for you to live a flamboyant life, but baseline funding has been calculated such that you won't lack accommodations or transportation options or food. So in summary, before you make any PhD, ask yourself, why should I be funded? Or why should my expenses be paid? And if we can answer this question thoughtfully and clearly and demonstrate how these can add value to the university, to the lab or the research group you are joining, then you have made a plausible proposition. And I can say that again and again, PhD is a relationship. You start building this right from your letter of inquiry or your application. Reach out to people who are more knowledgeable. I know Billy mentioned something about this. Reach out to people who are more knowledgeable about the process. Get them to review your inquiry letter. Get them to review your statement of purpose. Get them to review your research proposal. Get good mentorship. It is very, very important. And my talk today will not be complete without saying this. Getting a no is part of the process. Don't give up on your search because a professor said no. Welcome the no's. Improve yourself and make the best out of yourself. So sometimes these no's are very important, even for you to have a redirection. Sometimes you may be going on the wrong path, and the no will make you to sit down and have a redirection. And it takes your tolerance for rejection and a strong determination to succeed for you to be successful in your PhD. Thank you very much. Over to you, Matilda.
Okay, thank you, Akere, for that insightful talk. No, something got my attention. And no, it's part of the process. I'm not sure everybody understands that. Yeah, but that's actually a good one. And I believe people will have questions for that during the question and answer to how to handle that no, because that is a big no. Thank you so much once again. And now our Professor Erica Chamberlain, and she will now be talking about how do I write an effective research proposal or personal statement, because I'm sure a lot of people just write in circles without any direction, without any understanding. So she's going to tell us how to write an effective research proposal and personal statement. So Professor Erica, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, and thanks very much for this invitation. And I want to repeat that advice about being okay with getting a no. That's if you go on to become an academic, especially, you get no's for the rest of your life. There will always be people, you know, rejecting your papers or grant applications, whatever. It's part of the process, and it is really important to learn from that. So, really good advice. I feel like I'm a bit old to be part of this seminar, but I appreciate the invitation. I was really thankful for the time I got to spend in England on a Commonwealth scholarship as well. So I'm happy to share a little bit of advice. Back when I applied, you still had to do a paper application. There were no online applications, so it was a bit of a different process. So I was in Cambridge between 2003 and 2005, and I will say those are probably some of the best years of my life. Was a great place to do graduate studies, just because, you know, you feel like you're really immersed in learning while you're there, and you get to kind of walk the streets and eat in dining halls where lots of famous scholars were. So it's a really great place to put you in the right frame of mind to do graduate work. And you get to work with some incredible people who are there, whether that's students or faculty from around the world. And so you can learn a lot from them. I will say, on top of studies, no matter where you go on to do graduate studies, it's also just a great experience to study abroad and meet people from different countries and get to know them. So I would say, wherever you end up, make sure you don't just focus on your studies. Make some time to travel, do other things. When I was in Cambridge, I spent a lot of time rowing. So, and I think probably most of my best memories of Cambridge were of that, rather than, you know, being on the river rather than in the library. And I would say too, you're never going to be as free as you are as a graduate student to explore those kinds of experiences. So make sure you do that. The Commonwealth Scholarship too, I found, was a really great opportunity, because it created a lot of kind of immediate connections while you're away studying. So in Cambridge, we had a great group of Commonwealth scholars from all around the world, did things like, you know, going on road trips to different cities, going to the Shakespearean Festival in Stratford, those kind of things. So it was a fun group of people. And then when I got back home to Canada, I realized how many people were Commonwealth scholars, you know, just that I work with at different universities as well. So it's helped to create a network of people from all around the world. It's a great way to connect and build that network. So I'm assuming that people on this webinar are from a range of different disciplines. So I can't really speak to, you know, research specific to any particular discipline, but I wanted to give you just some very basic tips when you're writing both a research proposal or a personal statement, regardless of what kind of scholarship or grant application you might be applying for. And this really comes with years of reading these kind of graduate applications and scholarship applications. So these are just things that I've picked up over the years. So I kind of have my top 5 tips for both the research proposal and a personal statement. Number 1, for the research proposal, I would say don't propose something that you really don't want to study. So make sure whatever you're proposing to research, it's something that you really are excited to learn about. This is something you're going to eat, sleep, and breathe for the next several years of your life. It's going to be a project that follows you around for the rest of your life. So make sure that it's really something that you want to do, that you want to study intensely for quite a period of time, and that's going to keep you motivated to learn over that time. Number two, I would say remember that your project is probably going to change over time as well. So as much as you want to have a good, clear statement of the project that you want to pursue in your graduate studies, keep in mind that you will hit dead ends. You get no's during your research as well. And your project is going to change, it's going to evolve, and that's a natural part of research. So don't feel like you need to come up with the absolute perfect statement of your research, because it might, you know, it's likely going to change over time. And that leads me to my tip number three for a research proposal, which is really just make sure that you can focus on 1, 2, at the most 3 research questions that you want to answer, and state those very clearly, and state them in a way that is clear to anybody who happens to be reading it, because likely, especially with scholarship applications, you're going to have people assessing your application who are from all kinds of different disciplines, and they need to be able to understand what it is that you're proposing, what kinds of questions that you're going to answer. Which leads me to tip number 4, which is don't use a lot of jargon that is specific to your discipline in your research proposal, particularly if it's a scholarship application, as opposed to something like a proposal you're sending to a potential supervisor who actually knows what you're planning to study. So, you know, think about the fact that a selection committee is going to have people from all kinds of disciplines reading it. Figure out how to describe your project in a way that it's going to be interesting to all of those people. Don't use a lot of acronyms or very specific discipline-specific terms. If you're going to use those kind of terms, make sure that you explain them very clearly. If there are specific doctrines that you're relying on, maybe that are very common to people in your discipline, make sure that you explain them to people who might be from outside of your discipline. And one way to do this, you know, the previous speakers have talked about getting other people to read your application. Sometimes it's helpful to get someone who is completely outside your field to read your application as well, because they can tell you if there are things that are unclear or that they just didn't understand. So it might be helpful to get a kind of a lay person or just a friend to read your application as well. And then number 5 for a research statement, my tip is to explain why this project is important. Think about the fact that there are limited amount of research funds, scholarship funds available, and so you need to convince someone that your project is something that is worth funding. Why should they fund this project and not someone else's? How is what you're proposing going to change your discipline? How is it going to change society for the better? So make sure you answer those kind of big picture questions and make your project seem worth funding as well in a research statement. So those are my top 5 tips for a research statement. Moving on to personal statements. And again, this is not something that's specific to any particular scholarship, but something just tips I've gathered over the years. I am the Dean of a law school here in Canada, so we get a lot of students writing us saying, this is why I want to study law, this is why I want to be a lawyer. And so I read a lot of these kind of personal statements, and this is the kind of thing that I think is effective. So number 1 on my top 5 tips for personal statements or personal essays is make sure that you be yourself. Don't write a statement that you think people want to hear, but that doesn't actually represent you. I think that usually comes out actually fairly clearly. So for example, at the law school, we get a lot of people who, think that a law school will want to hear that you want to change the world, that you're, interested in international human rights or ending world hunger, those kinds of things. And that may be the case, but that's probably not the case for most of the students who want to study law here in Ontario. So I quite appreciate someone who says, I just want to work for big business. I want to work in a bank. I want to be a lawyer, who helps people who get fired from their jobs or something like that. So I think it's really important to be honest and authentic in your personal statement, because otherwise I think sometimes it rings hollow a little bit, especially when you go to provide examples of what you've done. Number two, don't be afraid to highlight your accomplishments. I think sometimes people are a little shy. They undersell themselves, and they're afraid to, because they might seem like they're bragging, but don't be afraid to highlight what you've done. You need to be an advocate for yourself in these kind of applications and explain exactly why you are the best person to do this kind of work. So don't be afraid of that, and make sure you provide specific examples of that. So if you say something like, I'm a really disciplined person, then give some examples of how you are disciplined, how that plays out in your life, in your work, in your studies. Again, if you don't have the kind of examples to follow those things up, they end up kind of ringing hollow, I think. My point number three, though, is that there's, I think, a very fine line between highlighting your accomplishments and coming across as being arrogant. And I think people who read personal statements, if someone seems a little too arrogant, you think, well, this is not the kind of person I want to come study in my program. Nobody really wants to work with someone who is arrogant. So, and it's, as I said, it's a fine line. It's often just a matter of the language that you use and the way that you frame your accomplishments. So I think it's a lot better to say something like, I led this particular initiative. This is what we accomplished. I created something new that got adopted somewhere. That's absolutely fine. I would avoid saying things like, I am a trailblazer, which, you know, you may be a trailblazer, but leave that for one of your referees to say. Get someone else to say that about you rather than saying it yourself, I think is important. Number four, I think it's important in a personal statement to bring out your personality a bit, even if it's just things that you might think are kind of boring, but something that sets you apart, and so that when someone reads a personal statement, they feel like they've gotten to know you a little bit. If there's something unique about you, try to put that in your personal statement somehow. It might be something that's a little humorous. It might be an interesting anecdote. I think that's interesting to put in. The weird thing for me, so when I was an undergraduate student, I studied Latin, which is not something that very many people in Canada do these days. But I found when I did scholarship and job applications, that was something people picked up on just because it was something different. It was something I thought that was actually quite boring, but it was something people wanted to ask about. Why did you study Latin? Why is that important? Or now I do triathlon races. And so I have a lot of people I always make sure I include that in my bio because it always starts an interesting conversation with people. So I think having something just personal in the statement to really make it feel like you're a human being and not just someone who wants to pursue graduate study somewhere. I think that's really important. And then my fifth tip for a personal statement is if the scholarship involves something like a leadership component, I think it's really great to include some of your life aspirations. Sometimes they are a bit pie in the sky. They're something great, but like if you want to say how you're going to make your mark on the world, I've had someone describe it to me as, tell me what your fight is. What is your big mission in life? And I think that's really helpful. And then link that to your research and say, this is what I want to accomplish, and this is how being able to study this particular thing at this particular university is going to help me accomplish that aspirational goal. And then I would just close, and I think Billy already talked about this, for both research statements and personal statements, make sure you read the instructions very carefully, including all the technical instructions, whether that's word limits, whether that's font size or margins, anything like that. Don't try to sneak in, if it says to do it in 12-point font, don't do it in 11-point font. People can tell that you're playing around with the rules, and it makes it look like you're trying to get an unfair advantage over your peers. It shows, I think, some disrespect, and it's something that people notice. So I would say, it's a little thing, but these kind of little things matter. It shows that you're careful about your work if you follow instructions, and that you can be trusted with bigger things as well. So I hope those tips are helpful briefly, and I look forward to our discussion now. Thank you.
for that interesting section. Hello, can you all hear me? Okay, yeah. I remember when I was actually writing my personal statement for the first time, I wrote, I want to change the world, and nothing specific. So yeah, so thank you for making it clear to us that you need to tell them what exactly you want to do, because we all want to change the world, but how do you want to do that? So yeah, Erica, thank you for that. That is quite interesting and insightful. Okay, please, just for your awareness, the Zoom platform is filled up. So please, those trying to join should just go to the Facebook and follow. So thank you. Just a recap, Billy talked about tips in getting Commonwealth and Sheridan Scholarship. And like you talked about PhD opportunities, how to get PhD offers, and how to get a supervisor. Then Erica talked about how to write an effective research proposal and personal statement, and also how to accept a no. That's still interesting to me. Okay, if while you get the questions ready from Facebook and Zoom platform, I just have a question, so any of the speakers can answer this. You people mentioned that you can just talk about something you did during your writing, your maybe either leadership essay or personal statement, something you did that actually made an impact. What if you just did something that affected one person? Is that strong enough to write in a research proposal or personal statement or a leadership essay? Just one person, is that a strong impact? So who wants to answer? Any of the speakers can answer. Yeah.
So I'll go first. I don't mind. I would say yes, you can. I would say just make sure that it's kind of translatable to other situations. So explain why that impact then would also be meaningful to other people, or show a characteristic about you that then is translatable to other situations.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with Professor. So you've helped one person without a master's scholarship and without the skills that you want. So you can actually go further and explain that by you being awarded the scholarship and having the skills that you need, you can actually help a number of people, because at the moment you've shown that you are able to help one with the skills that you have. So given an opportunity to acquire more skills, you can actually impact a larger group.
I think I agree with what Lee and Erica just said. So in that case, if you're able to just influence one person, what I would emphasize on, if I was to use that as my example, is what are my limitations? Why couldn't I go for more than one person? So that would make them say that you actually have the capacity to influence more people. Maybe the research was not funded properly, or maybe you lack some other things that couldn't make it to reach other people. So when you put those elements into your write-up, they can see that, okay, you have the tendency to, touch more lives, just that that project was limited, or you were working within the scope of that project.
Okay, thank you to our speakers for all bringing your own view, and that's actually very interesting. So at least most of us that have faith of making an impact, one person in one field that we haven't done anything. So thank you, because I'm actually part of these people. Yeah, thanks for that. So are you ready for the questions?
I compiled most of them already, so I think we could start now.
Just take it one at a time.
Yeah. So this question will probably be for Erica or Olatunji. There is someone, Mayowa, wants to know if a graduate with a tutu and get a fully funded scholarship in Canada, especially Canada to be precise. So, because we know that these scholarships, most people just rate it at first class graduate, 2-1 and all. So we like to share if a tutu graduate can get a fully funded scholarship in Canada. So I'm thinking this would be a master scholarship, probably.
So please, who want to answer it? Erica or Olatunji, anybody?
It is possible for someone with a tutu to get a scholarship opportunity. And the only thing is that sometimes some scholarships already have their criteria spelled out, which may be a block for someone with a 2-2 to even apply in the first place. But if it is, if that criteria or grade is not included, then you have the chance to tell the story of what actually happened and why, your grade, is that. But what most people do is that they complement their academic deficiency with experiences. If you have a 2-2, but you've done something substantial in that field, people really want to see that, because in the long run, it's not really about the grade. It's about what you can do. It's about how you can make indelible, changes into the world or your line of research. So if there's no block preventing you from applying, and you have your experiences to block or to compensate for your deficiency in your academic strength, then it is possible for a tutor to get a scholarship.
I believe, okay, yeah. So, Professor Ika, we would like to add to that.
I agree with what's been said. I think that makes sense. The one thing I would say, if you have a lower grade, at some point in your career, sometimes it's good to actually explain it rather than try to pretend that it's not there. So you might have a reason why it happened, or you might just say, look, I wasn't a very good student at that time, but here's what I've done since to improve. And so I have the potential, and make it seem that you're worth taking the chance on in spite of that, low grade in your past.
Well, I believe it really been well answered. So Gideon Sunday, I believe your question has been answered concerning the nominating bodies in Nigeria. So I'll move on to the next question. This should be for.
Maybe I can just add one more thing.
Okay, please go.
Yeah, so
right.
on the question for nominating bodies, so again, it goes back to the eligibility criteria. You might find that there are a number of nominating bodies, but you have to go back to their website and look at the criteria that they use to nominate someone. I'll give an example of FAWE, which is a nominating body for most of the countries, Nigeria included. So you find that one of the eligibility criteria is that they only nominate ladies. So for guys, sorry, you cannot apply through FAWE. You have to look for another nominating body. So this, the emphasis is that you have to go to their website and look at the eligibility criteria that they use for one to be nominated. Thank you.
And I believe that has been well answered. We'll move on to the next question. So in a situation whereby I want bachelor's, after I want bachelor's, then there's a diversion into another profession, but still wants to study more with the bachelor. What chances are there for the person who wants to apply for the master's? Yeah, just to rephrase here. So I think this person is trying to say that he or she is done with his bachelor's and probably diverse another profession different from his background for his bachelor's, but wants to still apply for a master's. So what are the chances? Or probably will have to fall back to his bachelor's, looking at the time gap between the bachelor's and probably working. So will the master's be much more focused on the profession which he's into, or can he or she still go back and have a master's in the bachelor's that he has probably finished about 5-6 years ago, or he just has to translate to a master's, which is more of what he does now for his work, for his job? I would probably think that's what the person here is trying to relate.
Okay, so anybody can answer that, Professor Olatunji Ebiri. Yeah, your opinions are all welcome.
Okay, for me, I personally feel they have a chance of getting the scholarship, but they will still have to explain further, or they have to show that what they've diverted into will still give them a good opportunity for them to contribute to the development of the country or the society and the like. I have friends who have done developmental courses, Afterwards, they had to go into public health and they still got it. So I think they still have a chance and they can still get the scholarship. But you still have to convince the panel through the interview and also through the essays that even as you're changing from what you did in your bachelor's to what you want to do under your master's, you're worth sponsoring and spending those penny on.
That's a good one. Let me ask this, let me direct this to Prof. Erika. If an applicant, well, I think specifically this person wants to know if he or she can still study with a bachelor's or his bachelor's. So if someone applies to a university in Canada and probably finished his bachelor's about 5 years ago, let's say in chemistry, but now works in an accounting firm, but still wants to go ahead to pursue a master's in chemistry, would the person be granted admission looking at the gap of 5 years chemistry, but now probably working with an accounting firm? Do you think the committee, the admission committee in the school probably grant the person admission based on what he studied for a bachelor's?
I think it may depend on the discipline. I don't think that should be a major problem that there's been some other a gap or some other profession in the interim. I think it might depend on the discipline and how quickly things evolve in the discipline. So if you've been away from it for several years and it's an area where things have changed a lot, that might be one where you have a little more difficulty. But if it's a discipline that you know, is somewhat static or where at least the fundamental principles haven't changed, I think that should be fine.
Right, that's well.
I can add to that.
The case, okay, yeah, please go ahead.
So there's a difference between you moving away totally from a particular field or you doing something else, but you still keep in touch with your goal. I mean, sometimes you still have your goals alive in you, but life happens. You have to do something else to survive, but you are still following up with what is happening in that field. You still have the what I call topical knowledge. You still know what is current in that field. So with that, when you write a letter, people can tell that you are still in touch with things in that field. And the second point I want to mention is that most people forget that when you take up a responsibility, there are soft skills that you learn. For example, you are a chemistry student and you move into banking. In banking, you learn how to, you know, work with numbers. You learn how to pay attention to details. You learn how to, you know, there are some soft skills that when you explain that in your letter, will actually boost your chances of getting admission or even scholarship.
Thank you very much for that, Olatunji. I think that's really relatable. Move to the next question is about getting reference letters. This particular person said his supervisor or a supervisor is dead, and he or she would love to know if you can get a reference letter from any other person, probably in a different discipline, but same school or a different school. So we would like to know if you can get letters from someone else and not just the supervisor who probably can't provide it again because he is dead. So I don't know who wants to answer that. So it's open to the three of you.
You can, yeah.
So you can get a reference letter from someone else, especially if your supervisor is not there to do it. But I must say that a reference letter from your supervisor or who has directly oversees some affairs of your research, academic carries more. Someone who has supervised you for 3, 4, 5 years would have a lot to say about you. But one thing about reference is that you start building relationships because most of this application, they require more than one reference. So even if your supervisor is getting you one, you still need someone else to give you other references, you know, to complete your admission process. So, and sometimes it's all about personality. I can remember about a few months ago, I needed a reference and I met a professor in my department, and I only worked with that professor as a TA. And when I read, the content of that reference letter, I mean, I was kind of moved to tears. So sometimes it's about your courage, how you relate with people, and keep in mind that you will need more than your supervisor to complete your reference for any admission.
Thank you very much. Would you like to add to that?
Yes. So my comment to be in line with the Cheven Scholarship and the Commonwealth Scholarship. So the goodness part with the Commonwealth Scholarship and the Cheven Scholarship is that there's a guidance that is provided for referees on how they are supposed to write a reference, what they need to include in the references. So yes, you can get from any other person. So as long as they highlight the important points that are required to be in the reference, sorry. So you can still get another referee even if they are not your supervisor when you are applying for Chevening or Commonwealth Scholarship. Thank you
very much. Thanks for that.
Can I just add one little thing? And it's very sad when someone's supervisor has died. I would make sure that you include that information somewhere, because there will be people who, if you look at an application and you say, why didn't the supervisor write a letter? Some people will think that that's because the supervisor didn't like your work. So I think it's important to make sure that you explain why your supervisor has not actually written a reference letter for you.
Yeah, really good. Thank you, Professor. So the next question, I'll be imagining some questions specifically. What are the things that supervisors really look for in the academic CV? And also, without publications, what other ways can one demonstrate research potential? And to this question again, I would probably love to ask that, are there probably differences in CV structuring? For instance, someone might probably use an academic CV, which is very like up standard to apply for a scholarship in UK and get the funding, but using the same CV to apply to Canada is probably not working. So is there a way to probably structure the CV, or is there a particular CV that can be tailored to all schools, all countries and all? So that would be the additional question to this. So I'll go about it again. What are the things that supervisors look for in an academic CV? And also, without publications, what other ways can one demonstrate research potential? But added to it is just, can there actually be one particular CV that can work probably for UK, for Canada, for this and that, and one doesn't have to probably be restructuring it every now and then?
Okay, who's willing to go first?
I think Professor can go.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of what people look for, I mean, it's hard because I think it's so different depending on the discipline, and I think it's hard for graduate students because you have to start somewhere, right? And then so, I don't think supervisors are looking for a whole lot in an academic CV, because we understand that you're just starting out your research careers. I think, especially if you don't have publications, I think even just major essays or papers that you did as an undergraduate student, I think are helpful to show that you have an interest in research. Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not used to looking at them from graduate students. I'm usually looking at them from people who are already faculty members. So I have perhaps a slightly different view on that. Yeah, no, I usually just, if you can include, sometimes having a short writing sample can be really helpful if you don't have a publication record. Not something that's going to take someone a long time to read because they might not want to invest that time. But if you have a short writing sample that you can maybe send someone, if you don't otherwise have a publication, I think that would be helpful too.
Thank you so much. Any addition? Olatunji will also add to that. So, all right, let's move on to the next questions. I guess we're getting a lot of questions. Just a quick one. Someone would love to know what time of the year Commonwealth Scholarship, or when do they call for? So I think it should be a quick one, actually. That should be for Bill.
Come again? Come again?
When the Commonwealth, when do they actually call for applications? What time of the year do they call for applications? Commonwealth scholarship.
Okay, so from my experience, I would say I'm not so sure when they do call, because each year they keep on calling at different times, but it's usually between October and March, because like I explained, there are different types of Commonwealth scholarship. So the one that starts first is the one for lower and middle income countries. So they might call maybe around October or November. Once they close, then they will go to the Commonwealth shared scholarship. And once that closes, then they go to the Commonwealth distant scholarship. So they move like that. So it's between October and March, to be specific.
Thank you very much. I think that's very accurate. It's in October, because it actually changed last year. Last year was earlier. It used to be around, for us then, it was around January, February, but last year was around October, November. So it changes every year, actually. So this question, we have about 2 questions here. It's very normal in the US for some schools to evaluate credentials like the transcripts using the World Evaluation Service. So that's the West. So our PhD applicants in Canada are also expected to also evaluate their credentials with WES before contacting potential supervisors. And also about reference, is it only professors that we are expected to get the reference from? Can we use other senior lecturers? So a bit of match here. So the first question is, as PhD applicants in Canada, are we expected to evaluate credentials with WES? And also, can one get references from other, probably a doctor who is not a professor, or even a mister who is still a lecturer in the school? So does that really affect the weight of the references? Is the title actually something that one has to look for? If it's a mister who can provide a good reference for you and be fine with it, or do you really have to look for a doctor, probably someone who is with E or L, like a PhD, and probably is a professor, is an emeritus in the field, before you think that will carry weights and probably. Floor is open to anyone, actually. You probably could be Billy, could be Olatunji. It's open to
Coming.
I think Olatunji can answer the first one about PhD applicants, if they have to evaluate their transcript with WES. In your own situation, did you have to do such? Did you have to evaluate with WES? Yeah, apply for the transcript and everything.
The short answer is no. I don't think there's any school that requires you to do WES for your credentials before you can get admission. I'm not aware if there's any school that will ask you to do this before into. And secondly, you have some references.
So yeah,
can you please ask some people to?
Yeah.
Can you mute those people?
Don't worry, the day will need money to come.
Okay. So great.
Okay, so as I was saying, references, to the best of my experience, is about someone who can tell something about you. So I can say it's not about the title of who writes it for you. If an emeritus professor doesn't know you, you can't ask him to just write a sentence because you need a reference because of the name. So I think it's about your integrity, someone who can really describe your potential, someone who can describe what you can do. So, and like I said when I was talking, it's about you knowing somebody that will be happy to give you a reference. And that person should know you to the extent that they can write at least a page about you. So I don't think it's about the title. I think it's about you having a relationship with someone that can write about your potentials.
Ife, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. All right, today, Frederica, would you love to add to that, particularly about preferences? Do you think, just like Olatunji has said, that it's not about the title? So do you have anything to add to that also? Can I use a Mr. for a reference, and I'm applying for a PhD actually? So I'm done with masters. I want to apply for a PhD in Canada or in the UK or in the US. If I have a Mr. that can write something very good for me, can put in a lot of details about me, can I go ahead to use a Mr. who is probably still having his PhD, probably in Nigeria or somewhere else, and I use him as a referee? While I know that he's still on his PhD, can you write a reference for me for my own PhD applications?
Erica, please, could you?
You've muted yourself, Ijiro. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I think I've unmuted Erica. Okay, right.
So she's still muted.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. Are you unmuted now?
No, she's not muted. Can you send her the request?
Yeah, please, Erica, could you please do that again?
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. No, I agree. I think the most important thing is it's someone who can speak to your research abilities, who can speak to your personality. I think that's and your character. I think that's the most important thing. I don't think the rank of the professor or lecturer or whatever, that's not really important for scholarship applications. And we have had people who, you know, sometimes it is the person, the referee is someone who maybe is still junior, but that's fine if they can speak to you in an authentic way.
Thank you very much. I guess that was really clear enough and for everyone to get from. There's a question which is not really that specific. I think this will be a general question. What more do I need to do for my sister who made the first class in microbiology in 2019? She had upper credits in her HND in 2015. Canada is a dream country for a master's degree. So I wouldn't know what specifically this person wants to know. Maybe it's about applying, maybe it's about contacting professors and all. But then maybe Prof. Erika and Olatunji can just give a brief idea of what they think he or she can do for his sister. So the sister had the first class in 2019 in microbiology and also finished HND in 2015 in the same discipline. And she wants to study in Canada for a master's. So she wants to know how to go about it. What do you think is the first thing that she has to do? Does she have to contact the professor, or are there master's degree in Canada that one can just apply to without contacting professors and just get in straight away?
Sometimes if you have a very good grade and you are not active in your search, someone who doesn't have as good as you may end up getting the position, because after all said and done, it is who applies that will be assessed. So what I would tell the person is to be active in your search and know what you actually want to do. Because if you have a undergraduate in microbiology, is that correct? Then you should look for an area in microbiology that interests you, that you want to apply. Then you do an active search along that line. So I just want to tell the person to start engaging yourself and start looking online. There are a lot of opportunities that fly by every day, but it's only for those who are looking. So just start looking, get your statement ready, get a draft of inquiry letter ready, write a mini proposal. Just look at the field you want to go into, come up with a knowledge gap, send it out, and Because sometimes when you just send a generic email to professors, Erica can talk more about that. People don't have time to just be reading generic emails. I want to see how what you want to do will add value to my line of research. So when you send a letter to professors, make sure you've read what they have done in the past or what they are currently doing. Then structure your inquiry letter along that line. It's very difficult for anybody to ignore email that is that specific, So my advice for that person is get down to being active about your search, get a draft of your statement of purpose, come up with a mini research proposal, and be specific when you are making contact with professors.
Thank you very much. Professor, would you love to add to that? You think Olatunji just covered everything?
That was a very good answer. I have nothing to add, really.
Can I add something?
Yeah, please, Billy. Please go ahead, please.
Yeah, sorry, I've turned off my video because power is cut. I would encourage you to tell your sister to be active on social media, to join some groups, to just find support from other people who are also trying to apply to Canada, so that at least together you'll be able to help each other and also know various opportunities that she doesn't know at the moment. So she can also join some social media platforms and just try to be active and see if she can get help from other people who are also trying to apply to Canada.
Thank you very much, Billy. Thank you very much. Okay, please go ahead.
Right, this question I would like to ask. The speakers mentioned how to handle no, because a lot of people have gotten no's a lot. So they would like to know, because I have some friends that actually gave up, but like, please, I'm tired. I cannot do this anymore. So Erica and like Tuki said, no is part of the process. So we need to understand how is it part of the process. So please enlighten us so we can now accept no with all our hearts. All right, so who's going to go first?
I think it's just how to deal with rejections. How do we deal with rejections? You think the scholarship is what you will win. You've invested a lot in it, but you got, unfortunately, we are sorry. Although you had a good this and that, but unfortunately, how do you deal with all sort of essays, those emails and all? So how do we get to deal with these no's?
Okay, Professor Olatunji, anybody? I think we're wrapping up very soon. So.
Okay, I can say a little bit about that, and I'll let Professor Rika talk more. Maybe she has had more notes than me, I don't know. So, I mean, like I said, in reality, no is part of the process. Sometimes someone has done something to outshine your performance. So sometimes when you get a no, it may be okay for you to ask for a feedback so that you know what you have done wrong, and you block that loophole in your next application. And sometimes there's a trend now, and this is something I've done recently that really worked for me. Sometimes you can put up a way of rejecting your rejection. For example, let me give you this scenario. There was this job I applied for not too long ago, and I was rejected. But within me, I know I had what it takes to actually do the job I know. So I composed an email to that company, and I itemized the things I have done in that area that I know led to that rejection. And one thing led to the other. The company that I said no eventually came and gave me a yes, and I'm currently working with them on a part-time now till I finish my PhD. So sometimes you need to get a feedback to know why you got that no. And sometimes the no may be that you are doing something wrong. You just need to overhaul yourself and have a redirection. You may be going on the right path, you may be going on the wrong path, but if you are going on the wrong path, those no's will help you to, put yourself together and go on the right path. But not every scholarship will give you a yes. So it's important for us to understand that. And before you make an application, know if you actually meet the criteria. So if you apply for something you don't meet the criteria, you know the answer already. But if you meet it, and someone has done something better, join forums, ask for people's experiences. When they got to know, what did they do? And one thing I would like to say before wrapping up my thought is that don't be afraid of the rejection, but be afraid of the fact that you almost got a yes and you gave up. I will repeat that. Don't be afraid of a rejection. Don't be afraid of any no, but be afraid of the fact that you almost got a yes and you gave up along the line. Yeah. I'll leave it up to
Thank
Prof.
you, Erica.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Sometimes it's just not now. Sometimes it's just not this particular opportunity. I know it's hard because most of you probably have been successful for most of your lives. And so it's hard when you get kind of further up that pyramid, you're always competing against people who are more and more talented as you go. And sometimes it's just not meant to be. I would say, and this is maybe just trying to make the best of a situation. Sometimes I know in my life, there have been times when I've been rejected for something and it turns out for the better because I end up doing something different, which ends up being a fantastic opportunity. And so I think being open to other opportunities is really important as well when you do that. I know when I was in law school, I applied for a job. I didn't even get an interview. I was really disappointed. I didn't understand why, but I ended up working as a research assistant for a professor. And then it was that made me realize I actually wanted to become an academic rather than become a practicing lawyer. So it ended up being a really important life-changing moment for me. So keep that in mind as well.
Okay, thank
you very much, Erica. This question is from Facebook.
Yes, yeah,
I wouldn't know if yeah.
Last question. You're almost out of time, so that should be the last question. Okay.
All right. Let's see how we can wrap this up. The Canadian Embassy in Lagos has been known probably to, okay, well, just to Olatunji, how do you think one can effectively ace visa interviews in Canadian Embassy after getting admission and you just need to go for your visa interview? What are your thoughts about that? What do you think is an effective strategy to get your visa not denied?
Well, I don't have that experience. I moved directly from the UK to Canada, so I didn't have that experience of being interviewed or, I just applied and I got it. But what I would say is that make sure you have the right documents. I mean, have your documents ready and make sure they are the right set of document that is required for that admission. And whatever you have used for your admission, Canada is very good with records. Don't try to...
Sorry.
Okay. Canada is very good with records, I can tell you that. So whatever you have submitted for a visa application years back, they have a way of pulling that out. So don't try to be... don't use anything that is not original, or don't fake any document. Use the right one and be original. Be yourself. Whatever you have used for your admission, bring everything. If you have funding, that helps you a lot because then they know that you will do it financially. And most of the challenges is that there's no strong financial conviction for your travel. If you don't have a scholarship and you don't have enough evidence that you can take care of yourself, Canadian Embassy won't let you come because they care about you. They want to be sure you are okay in the system because you can only be okay in the system to contribute to the system. So make sure your financial situation is well sorted, get the right document, don't falsify anything, and be yourself. And yeah, that's all I can say. I didn't have that experience, so I can't really say much.
Well, I thank you very much. I would just love to ask one more question. I hope I'm permitted. So this will probably be the last question. I'll do so well to match them. So someone really wants to know the importance of online courses. How do they really help? What is the weight that they carry towards someone securing a scholarship? And also, what are those qualities that a letter from a referee really should have to boost one's chances in scholarship applications? So the first question is, how does online courses really help towards securing a scholarship? What weight do they carry? And also, what are those specific attributes of a good letter from a referee? What should be written? How should they be approached? How should they be addressed? And all. And finally, I think this should probably be for Erica or probably Olatunji. Someone has a distinction in accounting, HND, and also a first class in accounting, which is good. So what are the chances of getting a PhD admission in Canada straight away, without masters? So I guess that will be all that we can. I'll go over it again. What is the importance of online course in getting a scholarship? So do they really carry much weight? Probably you want to apply for a master's in molecular biology and you've done online courses, a lot of them. So if you probably put a certificate there, or if you probably write them that you've done this and that, don't really add so much weight to your application. And also, if you want to get a letter from a referee back in school, not just a 1 line, 2 lines, such a letter, is a good boy, he worked with me, thank you. So what really should be inside these letters that will make the scholarship committee convinced that, oh yeah, this is really a good candidate for us. And lastly, someone has an HND distinction in accounting, as I can also then BSc first class in accounting. What are the chances of getting a PhD straight without masters in Canada, specifically Canada?
I'll start with the last one. With the first class in any field, you have opportunity, or you have high chances of going straight into a doctorate program. And I think I mentioned this in my talk. There's a platform for that, but you have to check with the course or the program and the school to be sure you can do that. But first class students from undergraduate can move to doctorate program. Then secondly, when you say online courses, I want to believe you're talking about certifications. So that actually had colors to your application. And one thing about grades or those certifications is that they tell us how you can perform academically. So it's just an indicator of your academic prowess or your academic capability. And lastly, your reference letter, very, very critical, very, very important. If you read a good reference letter, you can tell that this is a good reference letter. The last time my professor wrote a reference letter for me, it was 4 pages. So for someone to write a 4 pages or a reference letter for you to be in 4 pages, you read a good reference letter, you can know. And so the danger about it is that some reference letter would be directly from your referee to the scholarship body. And that is why you need to be sure the person is happy to provide you a reference letter, and a good one, so to say.
Thank you, Professor.
I don't have much to add on that. I thought those were good answers. Sometimes one nice thing to put in a reference letter is a comparison to previous students. So sometimes you'll have someone who'll say, look, I've supervised 100 students over the course of my career, and this person is in the top 5 students I've ever supervised. I find that can be a really helpful thing to include in a reference letter as well.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. This won't be a question, but then to Olatunji, if they want to add you on WhatsApp or so, how can they add you? I've been getting questions of how do we get added? How do we do this?
Yeah.
Can you drop a link in the comment box if there is a WhatsApp group, or if there is a particular place whereby you leave notes on scholarship applications where they can just check in and read more on it?
Okay.
Matilda has my details. She can do that. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
great.
you. We have exceeded our time and want to apologize to our speakers. It's supposed to be 90 minutes, so we are sorry for exceeding over 8 minutes. So please, any last words to our audience from the speakers before we call it a day? So we'll start with Professor Erica.
I'll just say good luck and have fun with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Olatunji.
Yeah, good luck as well. If you are currently in your master's and you are planning to do PhD, start applying early. I secured my PhD position after my first semester in my master's program. So start early. The earlier, the better. Good luck.
Thank you. And Billy?
Thank you very much, Matilda, for the platform. At least I've learned a lot from Professor Erica, and then I know how I will pursue my PhD application once I start. So thank you very much.
Okay, I want to say thank you to our speakers joining us from Canada and from Zambia. We are actually honored. We've learned a lot from you, and I've also learned, and is one thing I'll take home is that no. Oh my God, because I got a no 2 days ago. Like, why? So thank you so much, and I'm sure the participants have learned a lot from you, and we are honored for you taking our time to help us this evening. Thank you once again, and have a great week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.